there's a really interesting thing happening in New South Wales at the minute in policy and statement, and the from ministerial level through to agency level through to governance level, where the language of the environment is changing, and I'm meaning how we're describing to solve problems, and people are now realizing that we've got to invest in what's been termed a nature-based solution. So that's designing with nature accounted for. And look, we've done this for a while. We've done things like water sensitive design. We've done things such as wildlife connection and bridges. But now is a great chance to be able to really test and really work hard to drive and rationalize development decisions, and really sort of say, well, we've got a legacy here for future generations. So if we're going to do an activity now, that loses a resource on the planet for good, we've got to really justify that. But we can also think about what we do carefully and look to, create a restored or a regenerative outcome. So that's a rewilding or a replanting outcome, or designing to use sort of a connection to nature, or bringing in First Nation opinions in how we design and manage the environment. They know these things far better than we do. They, be the first to admit that we see the world from a westernized view. And for 60,000 years, the First Nations have managed this, continent far better than we can. So, that's what I'm passionate about, and that's, how I can now use a REAP to be able to ask these challenging questions. Because I think if we're not willing to challenge with what we've got in front of us, then, we're not willing to change. And if we're not willing to change, then we're not willing to have a discussion. And I think, this all comes into play politically. I think there's a willingness at long last to see those changes. And I suppose the parting shot to it all is, I'm sat here as a consultant. This is something that broad industry is struggling with, and it's something where there's a lot of conversations going on at the minute around, we want to make this change, but we're not sure how to. We're not sure what it feels like. What does it look like? So I suppose I'm a voice to that process. I don't have all the answers. Do I start to have some of the answers? Potentially. But at least I know how to join the dots, I would say. And at least I know, I can contribute to that, and know how to go and find some of the answers as I need to. So that's how a REAP will really change me, is looking forward